CEO of the Lebanon Valley Chamber of Commerce, and I'm absolutely so thrilled that you have come out this morning to share in this presentation with us. I wanted to mention a couple of things. First of all, if you do need to use the restrooms, you're going to go out this door with the exit sign immediately to your right. Just be a little careful because they're working on the carpet out there. Beyond that, I want to thank our sponsor, Seniors Helping Seniors. They are unfortunately not able to be here today, but they specialize in hiring recently retired individuals to help work with seniors who want to stay in their homes. Next, I would like to call up Karen Baxter, who is a representative from MetEd. I wanted to tell you a few things. MetEd has graciously allowed us to use their auditorium here.
Yes, welcome to MetEd. We're happy to have everyone here today. But thank you and welcome here today. It's particularly meaningful to have the Military Affairs Committee and Mr. Brocklehurst here because First Energy is a very proud partner with veterans organizations. We are a military-friendly employer, and we're in the process of forming veterans, I'm going to get the name right, Veterans Employee Business Resource Groups at all of our facilities. And First Energy is a very large company. But the point of that is to help employees who are veterans, help them succeed and grow within the business, to help recruit veterans to our company, to assist whenever we have employees who might be deployed, to help their families, and to help strengthen the veteran support organizations within the community. Utilities are historically very veteran-friendly employers because it just somehow seems to be a real match for what we do.
So I'm going to introduce Bob, and I have to tell you how I met him. I met Bob at a dinner, a business dinner, and I was just absolutely enchanted by him. He is a charmer. He is sharp as a tack. He has had a more exciting life than me, and still does have a more exciting life than me. This man does not sit still for very long. And I just thought it's such an incredible story, and it was really important. It's not a traditional chamber event to have this, but his story is so important, and I thought it was really important to get out to you. And I know he's presented at some other places, but I wanted to hear his full story myself, so it's a little selfish as well. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Bob Brocklehurst.
I was not at Dutch Harbor. They found out that I was the sole surviving pilot of 300 or 400 pilots up there at that time, and they invited me up for a 5-day celebration as a guest of honor, and they paid all the expenses for me up there, and my oldest son Bob Jr. to escort me, and she heard about that, and that's how she said, "You got to come talk to us today." Well, fellow veterans and guests and members of the Chamber of Commerce, thank you. I know many of you have your own interesting stories to tell. You veterans should tell them. And I hope you find mine interesting. In February of 1941, some 1,500 young men aged 20 to 27 joined the Army Air Corps as flying cadets. They went to a number of Army Air Corps flying schools in the southern half of the United States. When we got there, they said, "Look around at each of you. There's 1,500 of you now. When you graduate, 1/3 of you will be gone." We went to primary, and then basic, and then advanced flying school, and then we were commissioned pilots with a second lieutenant rating. Out of our 951 graduates, we lost about 251 during the war years. We have organized after the war. Out of our 971, we have 16 still alive. The youngest is 97 and the oldest is 100, celebrated his birthday last month. The names and the incidents I relate are all true throughout this. We had, for interest, we had a Lieutenant Bacon done and a crisp. And to teach us to be officers and gentlemen, we put so many receiving lines. To meet a colonel or a general or something like that, we'd always line up. I'm bacon, I'm done, I'm crisp. About that time, they realized what was going on. They all got in a group of the receiving line laughing. Nobody ever knew Brocklehurst came through. We graduated September the 26th, 1941 as Flying Cadet Class 41G. I was assigned to Selfridge Field, Michigan, north of Detroit, to fly P-40s. At that time, the P-40 was a pretty hot airplane. We'd seen some of them land, and they would get way down low. You don't see airplanes do that. Come in real hot, land on the front two wheels, and finally get it slowed down and land the tail wheel. Some of them would catch the prop on the landing, and so here I go to P-40s. Jack Chenault, one of the 7 sons of General Claire Chenault, was Chinese fame, was the squadron commander. He said, "This is an airplane. It has 2 wheels up front and 1 wheel behind, and you land it on all 3 wheels. You stall the airplane to land it. You don't land on 2 wheels to come to a stop." That saved all of our lives in our squadron for our young second lieutenants. People sometimes ask me, "Were you ever scared in an airplane?" I tell them, yes, I was scared twice in the same day, but the rest of the time I was only frightened. I was sent up through flying school. All they did was demonstrate acrobatics. Wouldn't let us do it, and they said the propellers wouldn't stand for it. So I had about 6 or 8 hours of that P-40, and I was sent up to do acrobatics. Well, I wasn't sure I wanted to do any, but they got up to 10,000 feet, and I thought a snap roll would be the easiest. That's where you cross control the airplane to the snap, and you catch it, and it flies along naturally. I did that snap roll at 10,000 feet. It went every which way. I couldn't control it, although I was strapped in tight to the seat. I couldn't do anything. I would have bailed out if I could have reached controls to bail out. Finally, at 5,000 feet, that airplane just came straight from level, purring along like a kitten. Well, I grabbed the controls and I flew around till I got unscared the first time. Got up to 10,000 feet. Well, I'll try it again. I tried it again. It did the same thing. Again, I would have bailed out. And at 5,000 feet, it just suddenly came straight along, purring along like a kitten. Well, I took those controls in, flew around till I got unscared the second time, and I went back and landed. I put that thing on the ground. Red Reinerson went up and had the mission too, acrobatics. He tried the same thing. Only he was able to bail out of it. He could reach the controls. He bailed out of it. We'll hear more of him later. The Saturday after the Sunday of Pearl Harbor, we were on a troop train headed for California, Sacramento Air Depot to pick up P-40s to fly to Alaska. Airplanes had not been, military airplanes had not been flown to Alaska before. We had some hand-drawn maps, just like photos that airline pilots do for the navigation, and some Romeo color aids that we used. So things happened to me, which gives a setting for later on. I don't think I've told these only one time before. The airplanes weren't ready at the depot. As they came ready, I think the senior people took them. The rest of us must have drawn straws or something. So when an airplane came ready, or 2 or 3, they took off in groups like that, headed for Alaska. When it came my turn, Red Reinerson got his, Roderick got his, and I got mine. So we took off in the valley between the mountains, headed north for Milford and Oregon. And so I was following them, clouds above us and scattered clouds on each side of the mountains. And I kept drifting back, losing the two of them. And I couldn't figure it out. Well, finally, you have friction on your control, on your throttle, and your fuel, and on the propeller setting. And mine would not hold, so it's vibrating back all the time. Well, I finally figured that I jammed the map in it or something, but anyway, I lost them in clouds. I went out, and they ended up landing in a hayfield. I got on a beam we had then, found what they call the false cone of silence, and landed at a Cub airport. When I phoned in, they said, how bad are you hurt? I'm not hurt. How bad's the airplane damaged? The airplane's not damaged. Are you sure? They didn't make me to land that little tiny airport with a small town. And the next thing, we went to got up to Portland, Oregon, and Spanky Chancellor landed too close behind Jake Dixon, chopped his airplane off to the cockpit. So the first two airplanes we lost, out of 7 airplanes, lost 4 on the way up, and 1 pilot, 1 airplane after we got there. So out of 24 airplanes, we lost 7 and 1 pilot on the way up. They lengthened the airfields up there, snow covered now, and we, one side was for skis and one side was for wheels. We didn't know the difference. Our people didn't land on the wrong sides at times. Also, they cut trees down to lengthen the runways, but the stumps were still there, not covered by snow, and there wasn't any end of the runway markings good enough to recognize. A couple of them landed among the stumps and tore up the airplanes. We got up there, and Jackson Alt would take us out, and I would fly anywhere on his wing. One of his, we flew in close because he'd be flying down the mountain pass, overcast mountains on each side. We'd all try to tuck in tight on him. He'd come down and say, fellas, I know you got to fly tight in that formation, but will you please stop trying to get in the cockpit with me? Okay. Got up to Medford, Oregon, and took off from there finally, and headed for Spokane, Washington. And all of a sudden, my feet are slipping in the channels to work the rudders, and I looked down, and I got oil all over the place. They're in these channels, had fuel gauges in the bottom, and they were just about covered with the oil. Engine's running okay. I called the leader, and he said, well, were your engines okay? I said, yeah, everything looks good, but I got the oil leaking all over the place. He said, what do you want to do? I said, fly it. So we landed, and what we found out that the crew chiefs at Portland did not know how to fill the oil, and it had it about this high, and they filled that and weren't supposed to, and it just heated overflow and went back. It got on my baggage, which was behind, and ruined my baggage. So, but these things helped me. We got to Spokane, Washington, took off, headed for Edmonton, Canada, and my belly tank wouldn't feed. You never went very far without the fuel in the belly tank. So I called in and said, told them about it. They said, well, we'll land in Calgary. So we went to Calgary. When I landed, the airplane kept wanting to go to the left. I said, what the heck? I had a heck of a time keeping that airplane on the runway. We found out that the tire had gone flat in the air. All it was a training base for primary pilots, and they were all out there to see us land, and they all swore too. He made a perfect landing. He didn't blow that tire on landing. So I had to stay there. So I stayed there for 2 weeks before they could get parts in to fix the tire. They made a new wheel. Then I took off finally, after a couple of weeks, they treated me well. The Royal Canadian Air Force was there, as well as the Royal Air Force from England, and had a great time with them. They got headed for north to Calgary, north to Edmonton from Calgary. Snowstorm squalls around and overcast, and I feel I could make it all right. I got a good compass heading, and all of a sudden I realized I wasn't recognizing the towns. And there's a false cone of silence. I finally found a name on a building, and I'm headed west into the mountains. Found out later there was a iron in the mountains would ruin your compass for about 15 minutes, make you think you're going north and you're going straight west. I got up at Edmonton. They closed the airfield. There wasn't much there. And Lieutenant Cape, one of my classmates, was closing the hangar doors, heard me come in, and I landed there. And with those three things, I come out smelling like a rose. So I got promoted to first lieutenant soon after we got up to Alaska. I landed in Fairbanks, Alaska on March the 5th, 1942. Got out in the wing, we had our thick flying suits on, and leather on the outside, and big thick yellow on the inside. I carried a .45 pistol on one hip, and a .22 Colt Wissman on the other hip. I got up and I stood on the wing, and I started killing Alaska mosquitoes. Now you can tell an Alaska mosquito because it has a white spot between its sides, about the size of a man's fist. And that's the only thing I kind of stretched so far. I think it's the only thing. We were in the 11th Fighter Squadron then, and the 18th was up there. The 18th had been up there about a year. They were flying P-36s. Probably never heard of it. They had 230 caliber machine guns firing through the propeller. It was a big old airplane, and the airplanes came up from the hold of the ship. The pilots had to put them together. They had to learn how to fly in that Alaskan weather. So after a few months, not over a couple of months, they split the squadrons half and half, and also the P-40s and P-36s. I went over to the 18th, where Gale was the squadron commander. And of course, they took the P-40s and gave us the P-36s, so later we could get all P-40s. We moved from from Anchorage then, down to, after landing at Fairbanks, went down to Anchorage, and then we, the 18th now, went down to Kodiak Island. They installed a new radar, which we went from, nobody's familiar with radar at that time, so they wanted to test it. So I was 6 man flying P-36s. We went out low in the water over the North Pacific there. The land disappeared from sight, and then we made a 90-degree turn and started climbing. And then we climbed to about 15,000 feet, and then we started to circle. And it was so hard for me to keep it flying somehow. And I always trim my airplane to fly pretty well hands off as you bring in air and higher air and stuff. And the last thing I remember, we were at 21,000 feet in a circle. If I could keep the sun in my eyes, I'd be okay. The next thing I remembered, woke up, my ears are hurting, I'm laying beside the cockpit, I'm at 5,000 feet at the General Bank. I lost 16,000 feet unconscious for over an hour while somebody else was flying the airplane. Then we moved down to Cold Bay, down the Aleutian. From the square part of Alaska, the peninsula comes down to the east corner, and there's a peninsula goes out on the west corner, and then it turns into the Aleutian Islands, and it's 1,500 miles from that corner, Naknek, to add to the furthest west island. The Army Air Corps said they lost 24,000 airplanes due to combat actions during the war, and they lost 16,000 in accidents. So they lost 1.5 combat to one accident. In Alaska, you can read different figures. I picked the lowest figures. I personally know of 100 aircraft lost up there. In Alaska, they say in one book, other books are much higher, say we lost 45 to combat, and we lost 185 to weather, a 4-to-1 ratio the other way. Anything you read about Alaska, you'll always find about the weather, and the illusions. The temperature in the illusions went from 0 to 70 degrees. Mean temperature is 38. You have rain squalls, snow squalls, and fog 270 days a year. When the Japs were coming into the Aleutians, we were at Cold Bay now, at the end of the Alaskan Peninsula. They had the Aleutian Islands. We were at Cold Bay, and we would find alerts, scrambles, and airborne alerts, and weather was sticking. And they said, we know the Japs are headed this way. We've got to reinforce Umnak. 4 P-38s went down. 3 ran into a mountain and were killed. 1 came back. 4 more P-38s went down, turned around and came back. We had a Canadian squad in there. They sent 7 airplanes down. 6 of them were lost. 1 came back. They came to our squad and said, we've got to get some airplanes down. We needed these 6 airplanes to reinforce on that. And my squad commander said, right away, help go. My leader, I was a wingman, said, he's going, I'm going. And we got 6 airplanes through. But that weather was bad all the time. In the 11th was at Umnak. The 18th I was in was at Cold Bay. And then I got Jake Dixon from the 11th, Elmer A. Booth from the 18th when I was in, myself. We got picked out to go back to Anchorage to start a new squadron in the 344th. And I trained that squadron, we all trained. Booth and Jake got transferred back to the States. I became the squadron commander. And we were down we went to Cold Bay and then to Umnak. And I got orders there to take my squad and move into At 2, the westernmost island where the Japanese were fighting our army was fighting the Japanese. So I took 12 airplanes of my best pilots, and we flew and we landed at Atka to refuel and have some lunch. They're just going islands down the chain. And I noticed a party of senior officers at the far end of the dining hall, like concert huts. And as we were eating, 3 of them come up, and I realized one was a general officer. He had 2 colonels with him. And he came up and he said, who was leading that flight of 12 airplanes? Well, when we landed, it was decent weather, some blue sky here and there, snowstorms on the mountain, typical. And if I snapped my fingers, that's how quick a snowstorm could come down off the mountain. So you had a big bay to the east, the runway, mountain at the north end, and the snowstorm come off of it. I'm about 300 feet in the air, and this snowstorm was already down at the end of the runway. And I figured not all my 12 airplanes can land. So I got Brocklehurst going around, and I You're busy, you gotta milk the packs up, change that to the airplane with the speed on going, so you're busy. So that's all I had time to do. And the rock was going around, breaking right 45 degrees, it was all clear out there. Well, I did that, started a big circle, I ended up with watching my guys pop out of the clouds one at a time. We got 11 airplanes, one's missing. So we circled for about 30 minutes, no storm blew away like it would. Just overheld the head to us. Went back, here's a P-40 sitting on the ground, a pilot about to climb into it to come look for us. He broke a rule, he broke formation. Now, he did the right thing that time. Did not, my rule, you don't break formation for anything. Oh, this general come down and said, who's leading that flight of P-40s at this time? I was, sir. He said, don't you know you're supposed to follow a C-47 and flying in the Aleutians? I said, no, sir. He said, that message went out. It's on the all the bulletin boards. You should have read it. I said, I've never seen such a message, sir. I said, I've flown up and down this chain for a year. I said, and any scramble I had, there was no C-47 made this. I said, I've taken this 24 times off on a 300-foot ceiling, climbed through an overcast, wrecked it out for an hour over the ocean, had the mission canceled, gone back, recognized the mountain tops that I knew, put my back to them, and come down through the overcast, broke out for 300 feet, and didn't lose an airplane, but I've never seen a C-47. He says, well, you get on our wing. We got a twin-engine airplane. We're going to leave here in about 30 minutes. You get on our wing and you fly on our wing down to ADAC. That was the headquarters. So we did that. I put my squadron in 6s on each side, high flights, low flights and stuff all around. I don't know if you watch something when they're not. We got down to ADAC, the headquarters, and the next day one of the staff officers came down and said, you were right. That message never went out. I've been promoted to captain, and we started a new outfit, and eventually they come down with another message. I thought, I wanted to sit there probably. And the head teller, the same staff officer, and he says, here, read it. He's going to read it. Congratulations. Promoted me to major. And they found out that Act 2 had parking spaces for only 6 airplanes. And the runway was only 2,800 feet long, 50 feet high over the end of the ocean with a bunch of rocks. And the north end had about a 30-foot deep pit where the engineers dug out the muskeg, and it was all salt muskeg. And you had to come 2,800 feet and then go like this. And so now instead of 12, I had 6 airplanes I could take. So I picked out my 6 best pilots in the squadron. Brocklehurst, Goff, Peter B. Provenzano, Henry I. Hacker, Tommy Thompson, and Jack P. England, and Norman Johnson. Good pilots. I knew they could make it. Well, we took off. We had to follow the C-47, of course. It had our crews in it, and it was overcast, but there was a hole alongside the mountain. We would go up a hole into the clouds alongside the mountain, but we never come down through one. And got up, joined up with the C-47. They wanted to avoid the radar from Amchitka and Kiska where the Japanese were. And so they took us northwest, all on top of the overcast, but low. And so we're burning more fuel. So we went out way northwest, and then we turned straight south towards that too. Overcast everywhere. Well, by the time we got, all we could see was finally the mountain top of that too, snow covered, and we didn't have enough fuel to go back.